Okay. So first of all, thank you to Dove, who not only sets up the camera, but also travels and brings us the lunch from wherever we're getting it that day. So thank you very much, Dove. Much, much appreciated. Okay, so we have a holiday coming up known as Lag B'omer. And it's a very interesting day. In Israel, it is celebrated to the hilt. Kids of all ages have the ability to express, their pyromania, and they are collecting logs and building materials and make tremendous bonfires. And there are probably, I would say, over 500,000 people who make their way to Miron. Miron is a city in northern Israel. It's a mountaintop, actually, where the great sage Rishon Bar Yochai is buried, and that is a place where everyone convenes. I mentioned before, I did it one of the years I was living in Israel, that from Jerusalem, the Geula area of Jerusalem, there are buses that just go non-stop. There's no schedule, right? One bus fills up, pulls out, next bus pulls in, fills up, goes out, next bus pulls in, right? And you buy yourself a round-trip ticket, and the ticket, they click it once. As you go there, you spend as much time as you spend there, and then you go back to the bus area, and bus after bus, you get on, click it. Right? I went there, we got there probably about 2 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning. Right? Went there, tried to get close to the kever, to the actual gravesite, Rishon Bar Yochai, said some tehillim, but the mass of people kept moving you out. Right? And then there were, as we got closer to sunset, there were many Vatikan sunrise minyanim that were timed to say Shemona Esrei the Amidah just as you reach the point of sunrise, and then a little something to eat, and then head back. And it's an amazing experience. What is it all about? What is the significance of Lag B'omer? How does the Omer, which is counting the days until Matan Torah, until the giving of the Torah, how does that interplay with this idea of Lag B'omer and the celebrations, Rishon Bar Yochai? So let's begin with the reason why during this festive, important time, as we climb from Pesach to Shavuot, why we have this aspect of Avelut, this aspect of mourning. We know that Lag B'omer is a time when shaving, haircuts, trimming will be permitted. But until then, we have certain aspects when it comes to haircuts, when it comes to live music, when it comes to music. We have certain aspects of mourning that applies during these days of Svira. So let's get a sense where that is, why that is. Yes, Steve?
I have a different custom. So should I call this Lag B'omer?
Yeah, when it comes to counting, one can do it either way.
Which is the log of the B'omer?
Okay. So the first source that we have is the Talmud in Yevamot, which tells us about the Talmidei Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Akiva would say, Lama Torah b'yalduto, if you learned Torah when you were young, Yilmod Torah b'ziknuto, learn Torah when you get old. Hayu Talmidim, if you produced students, you had students when you were young, Yilo Talmidim b'ziknuto, make sure to continue to produce and have Talmidim as you get older. Shenemar, as it says, Baboker, Zareh et Zaracha, in the morning, plant your seeds. Ube'erev, says the Gomer, etc., I think, Ube'erev al teinach yadcha is the Hebrew. And in the evening, do not put your hand to rest. Do not say, all right, now it's time to relax. Right? But continue to produce, continue to be productive. And this is a teaching that Rabbi Akiva demonstrated through his life and through a very tragic event that took place in his life that would have immobilized most people. But nevertheless, Rabbi Akiva continued, persevered, and we'll soon see the results. Amr, it was stated, Shneim Asar Elef Zugim, Talmidim Hayula Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Akiva had 12,000 pairs of students. So it was a yeshiva of 12,000 chavruto, 12,000 pairs of students. Migavat ad Antifras, covering this large area from Givat until Antipras. V'chulan metu beperek echad. And they all died within a certain time period. Mipnei shelo nagu kavod zeh lazeh. Because on their level, they did not treat each other with the proper respect that was due to them. V'haya ha'olam shamein. And the world was desolate in a Torah sense that these 24,000 students of Rabbi Akiva had died. Ad sheba Rabbi Akiva. Till Rabbi Akiva came, Eitzo, Rabbeinu Shebadarom, to the rabbis, the sages that were in the south, Vishan Alahem. And he began to teach them. They were Rabbi Meir, Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Shimon, also known as Shimon Bar Yochai, Rabbi Elazar ben Shamua. These 5 students. Veheim heim he'emidu Torah oto sha'ah. And they're the ones who, he'emidu, the English says reestablished. He'emidu means to stand it up, to put it back on its feet. They put the Torah and the teaching the Torah back on its feet at that time. We could certainly understand how Rabbi Akiva would have felt dejected and, like I said, somewhat immobilized and said, maybe I'll sell insurance instead. My teaching stint, right, these 24,000 students, and they all perished.
What
right?
is the word you said, Hamuda?
He'emidu. Ha'amidu. And the root of that is hey ayin.
Me do.
Yes.
To stand.
Well, the root of that is ayin mem dale, which is to stand. So he'emidu, he stood them up. He got them. Let me just finish the source. He got them onto their feet. So this is Rabbi Akiva living that teaching, that if you planted your seeds in the morning, in the evening, do not put your hands down and say, I'm finished, I'm through, but rather carry on. So after the untimely death of those 24,000 students, he continued teaching a mere 5 more students, but those 5 students were the conduit through which the Torah Sheba'al Peh flowed and came to us. Tana, we learned, Kulam metu mi Pesach v'ad Atzeret. They all died during the time period between Pesach and Atzeret, which is Shavuot. Amar Chamar ba'Abba v'Teim Rav Chaya b'Chia bar Avin, Kulam metu mita ra'ah. And they all died a difficult death. What was that? Maihi Amar Rav Nachman Asachra, which is a death, right? A death by choking, a very difficult death.
Oh.
Yes, Dov.
If that didn't happen, would we already have Mashiach by now?
I couldn't tell you.
It's possible, very much so, huh?
I will definitely tell you that it's possible. I'm willing to commit to that. Yes, Janet.
Doesn't it beg the question? Why was Rabbi Akiva unaware, or why wasn't he saying, "Okay, we're going to stop your shiva for a week until you meditate and
have workshops?" Yeah. You're making a good point. And it's Rabbi Akiva who said, "V'ahavta l'reacha kamocha zeh klal gadol b'Torah." And it's a curious question, an interesting question. Was that something that he had been teaching all along and the students hadn't inculcated? Is that something that after this bitter lesson, that then became his motto, and everything else is under that umbrella? I don't know. Okay, now the Breshit Rabbah, source number 2, the Medrash says, brings Amar Rabbi Akiva l'tamidav achadashim. Rabbi Akiva said to, warned his new students, Banai, my sons, Harishonim lo meitu ela shahaita einayim tzara elu la'elu. Your predecessors, the first ones, died because their eyes were not generous, were narrow, were constricting one to another. Tenu da'atchem. Focus. Give your minds. Give over your thoughts. Shelo ta'asu kema'asehem. That you should not do as they had done. And Rabbi Aaron Kotler, he explains why this would lead to the death of all these students. To explain why Rabbi Akiva's students died for a seemingly trivial sin. Perhaps we can say that Rabbi Akiva was the foundation of the redaction of the oral law. And his students were the ones who would pass on the oral law to future generations. They were meant to be the conduit of those teachings. Therefore, they had to embody the perfection of all the 48 traits through which Torah is acquired, that we discussed a little bit last week. If they were lacking even one of these traits, they would be lacking in the essence of the acquisition of the Torah, and you can't pass on that which you do not fully have. And they would not be able to transmit it in purity and holiness. Therefore, apart from the fact that God is strict with the righteous to within a hair's breadth, there was also this idea that since they were lacking in the quality of being close with one's fellow students, which is one of those 48 ways, their Torah would be fundamentally flawed. Therefore, they were not worthy or able of passing on the oral law to future generations. Furthermore, their Torah learning was deficient because it was not completely pure, and the oral law had to be passed on as a complete Torah in every way. Therefore, they did not merit having the Torah passed on through them, but instead the rabbis from the south who merited. Since the life of the sages is Torah, their very essence, their very purpose is Torah, as Rambam writes, they were lacking in the essence of their life, of their existence. And therefore, that is what allowed for what happened.
The ego cannot get in the way. The study has to be for its own sake.
Yeah, we have to, yes.
And so therefore, the students obviously were trying to outdo one another.
Perhaps.
Possibly.
Perhaps,
and
that
is not
and,
the point.
And certainly it was on their high level, but on their high level, it was egregious enough that it brought about this tragedy.
That's in complete contradiction to the way higher education is based today.
Meaning what?
It's totally competitive.
Oh,
You got to get a bit. If somebody gets an A, you have to get an A plus.
Yeah.
It's also difficult to keep track of 24,000 students, isn't it?
Yeah, I would imagine so.
All the time?
I would imagine so.
Do them all by name?
Now, it seems that there are different opinions if they died for the first 33 days, from which we have the custom of observing mourning until Lag B'omer. Lag B'omer, we do a little bit of the day, Mitzat Hayom, part of the day is like the entire day. So we keep those 33 days of mourning. After that, wedding, celebration is allowed. Others say that it was spread out over these 49 days. The festivity days, they were not dying on. What are the festivity days? Well, there are 7 days of Pesach, from the 2nd day through the 8th day. There are 6 Shabbatot, we're at 13.
Rosh Chodesh.
There are 2 days of Rosh Chodesh Iyar and 1 day of Sivan. That's another 3. That's 16. 49 days minus 16 is 33 days. So it's not necessarily the first 33 days. There are some that observe the last 33 days, which is from the start, from Rosh Chodesh Iyar and on. And that's the second custom for those who would shave and music until Rosh Chodesh, but from then on, not, with again Lag B'omer being an exception day. Why is this Lag B'omer an exception day? And we're going to see different aspects of Lag B'omer. One I've mentioned already is that they stopped dying on that day. But let's go further to source number 4. Yeah.
If that's the case, then we know, and all the deaths stopped, then we know that from that time on till Shavuot, there were no more deaths.
Again, there are 2 different views of what happened. Either that it stopped on day 33, or that during these 49 days, minus 16 days, the deaths continued, except for those 16 festivity days.
But we just said that Lag B'omer is stopped.
I just said that one opinion holds that on Lag B'omer it stopped.
Okay.
The other opinion is it was spread out with those 16 days not included. Okay, so source number 4 from the Art Scroll. Rabbi Pinchas Lifshitz writes as follows. Rabbi Akiva was the greatest sage of his generation. It is said that he was the source, the foundation, the shorish of Torah Shebaal Peh, of the oral teachings. The lines of transmission of the Torah from Ciner to future generations ran through him and his students. The Medrash says that when Moses himself, wanted to see the transmission of Torah, he was ushered in through this time warp and was able to sit in on a class given by Rabbi Akiva. And he asked God, why isn't the Torah being given through him? That was the role that Rabbi Akiva played in the transmission of the Torah. When his 24,000 students were decimated, it caused a major depression. How would the chain continue? Who would provide the light of Torah to future generations? How could they ever be replaced? How could a grieving people on the run from Roman persecution be consoled for the loss of so many great men so crucial to the spiritual survival of the nation? The urge to say it's all over must have been overwhelming, somewhat similar to the feelings that many in the Torah world had after the decimation of the European Jewry and all the yeshivas there. The only yeshiva to escape intact was the Mir Yeshiva via Shanghai to amazing, miraculous events. The less faithful and more pessimistic among them must have been ready to give up. But Rabbi Akiva recovered from his devastating loss to transmit the Torah through a new group of 5 students. It was on Lag B'omer that Rabbi Akiva began teaching Torah to these new Talmidim. Presumably not that year, where all of them were dying. The seeds he planted that day of Lag B'omer, this year Sunday, which ultimately produced the massive rejuvenation of Torah, are the reasons, I would say, are of the reasons for celebrating on Lag B'omer. On this day, we commemorate the renewal. We celebrate the determination. We cheer the cessation of the plague. We foresee the future bright with hope and determination. As the centuries pass and as the Romans of every period seek our destruction and annihilation, we look to Rabbi Akiva and Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai for inspiration. We note how they looked the enemy in the face and persevered, thus ensuring that our nation and our Torah are alive and flourishing to this very day. In the wake of a tragedy they would have felt lesser people, Rabbi Akiva strengthened himself and set about ensuring that the chain remains unbroken. And it really is fascinating that we had other such Rabbi Akiva-like personalities in the Torah world who kept on going and pushed and restarted Rav Kahanaman, the Panavizher Rav, who went to Israel, to Bnei Brak, and found this deserted area and staked out this little hilltop there and said, I'm going to build a yeshiva for thousands of students here. And people thought that Nebuch, right, he had lost his mind, right, that was from the past and can never be rebuilt. And you have the yeshivas throughout the world now. Throughout the world now. You know, in America, you had Yisroel that Rav Ruderman built. You had the Telz Yeshiva, which was a remnant of the Telz. Mir is from the city of Mir, and each of these are named after different yeshivas that were there. And at this point, there probably is more Torah being studied in the world than there was in pre-World War II Europe. Actually, well, let me go apples to apples. There's more Torah being studied in the world today than there was Torah studied in the world during the time of pre-World War II. So we've seen such a miracle and a rejuvenation, right? Again, in our time.
But Rabbi,
Yes.
with all that Torah, there must be people who could do away with.
Okay, Steve.
Yeah, to change.
Okay.
And,
Now-
and Kittios,
Thank you.
please.
Okay, I'll add those to the list. Okay.
I think it relates
And
to
chicken in
we
there.
only have Beit Dinim.
Yeah. We're not,
Beit
Janet,
Dinim and
Janet, we're not going off onto that.
We don't
That was,
have
that was a
700.
side point. I don't want to veer off onto that. I hear that, Steve. Okay. Now, another aspect of this Lag B'omer certainly is all about one of those students in particular, Rav Shimon Bar Yochai. And the Gemara in Shabbos, right, coincidentally, on Daf Lamed Gimel, Lag B'Shabbos, the 33rd Daf of Shabbos, tells the story of Shimon Yochai of Lag, the 33rd day of the Omer fame, how he had spoken truthfully but harshly about the Romans. They did not take very kindly to that. They put out an order for his execution, and he and his son went and hid. They hid in a cave, and they were miraculously sustained in this cave. And that is where we'll soon see how the Zohar figures in, but the deep Kabbalistic teachings that they studied, that they uncovered, that were revealed to them, formed the basis of what we know as the Zohar. And Rosh Ben Yochai's Yortzeit passing is on Lag B'omer. Normally, a Yortzeit is not a time for a festive celebration. It is a time for a more subdued celebration of a person's life. But when it comes to Shemei Yochai, it goes sort of over the top. And let's see source number 5. Oto Yom. This is the Zohar Idra Zuta. This is from the Zohar. Oto Yom Bikeshu Shemei Yochai Listalek Min Ha'olam. On the day that they requested, meaning that there was a heavenly request, invitation, for Shemei Yochai to leave this world, the Histalek Min Ha'olam, Vayemisader Dvarav, and he was organizing his words, his teaching. Nitkansu Achaverim Lebeito, his friends entered into his house. V'omar lehem, and he said to them, Ata Sha'at Ratzonihi. Ata she'et ratzoni. Now it is a time of ratzon, of divine favor. Milim kedoshot, holy words, holy teachings. Shelo giliti ad ata, that I have not revealed until this point, Ritzoni legalotan. Now I want, now I am ready, now I'm able to reveal them. Kol hahu yom lo afsik eisha min beita. That entire day there was this fire in the house. Laviman demate legave. And there was no one who was able to come to him. Lo yachilu dinahura va'esha havi besur chanei. Right? They were not able, as the light and the fire was around him. Va'esha havi lahit kamei shamu kol olu va'atu vitkanshu leilila to Rabbi Shimon. When he passed away, they came to bury him. The fire flew into the air, danced before him. A heavenly voice was heard saying, "Come and gather every year for the Hilula of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai." And it's interesting, amongst the Sephardic tradition, they have more of a Hilula when there is a yard site. Right? The Ashkenazim, we fast. Right? The Hasidim have a tikkun, they make a little kiddush. Right? And the Sephardim, in a similar way, have more of a hilula. Right? A celebration of that person's life. Right? So really, we are, well, while this theme of Lag B'omer seems in the source to be unrelated to the first, it is noteworthy that Rabbi Shimon Yochai was one of the 5 students that Rabbi Akiva taught after the 24,000 died. So celebrating Rabbi Shimon Yochai's contribution to the Torah also amounts to celebrating the continuation of Rabbi Akiva's legacy after the devastating plague. So we have a number of things at play here. We have the students stopping to die according to one opinion on Lag B'omer. We have him, the Rabbi Akiva starting to teach the new Talmidim on Lag B'omer. We have one of the 5. I can't gauge one against the other, but the one of the 5 who revealed to us a whole different glimpse, a whole different component of the Torah. So his death was on, his Hilula was on Lag B'omer, and this is part of that continuation after the plague that struck the students of Rabbi Akiva.
Wouldn't you think it would be a fast day instead of a day of celebration? We have so many
So that is
students
Ida,
who died.
you come from an Ashkenazic tradition.
Right.
Right? You know the tefillah, we say tefillat zaka, it's in all the machzorim. On Yom Kippur, every machzor has tefillat zaka, a tefillah of purification. That was written by the great, it was the Chachma.
Danzig, Rabbi Danzig.
Yeah, the Chachmas Adam, I believe it was.
Chai Adam.
The Chai Adam, thank you, the Chai Adam. And that's Ida's great-great-grandfather, is it?
Great-great-grandfather.
Great-great-grandfather. So you, Ida, are steeped in this Ashkenazic tradition, right? And yes, right. And the Ramah speaks, right, who speaks of the Ashkenazic traditions, speaks about fasting on a yard site, right? And that again, that's, we don't find such a thing in the Torah, right? These are different customs that came over time. You know, someone pointed out an interesting idea that the Ashkenazim were mostly in Christian lands where abstention is considered a big part of spirituality. And a lot of the customs adopted, I'm not saying that they were Christian customs, I'm not saying that at all, but a lot of the customs that were adopted amongst the Ashkenazim is more of a refraining from than the Sephardim, who were not in that whole milieu. They were more Muslim lands, and it's a different approach, right? But Hilula is a very strong Sephardic view. Now, the Chasam Sofer writes that
He's my family relative.
nice, right? Wow, I'm sitting amongst descendants of the greatest. Well, truth is, everyone here is a descendant of the
Of
greatest.
course,
Let's go back a few more
Avram Avinu.
generations, and we all have Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, and Leah. Okay, the Chasam Sofer. I didn't include this over here, but the Chasam Sofer says that based on the Medrash, the Jews brought food out of Mitzrayim. And we sustained ourselves on the food that we brought out of Mitzrayim. That food at a certain point ran out. And then we went 3 days without much, and then the man began to fall. And the Medrash says that the man began to fall. If you calculate the days, the man began to fall on Lag B'omer. Now, what's fascinating about that is that Rosh Yochai, whose Hilula, as we now know what it means, is celebrated. His yahrzeit is celebrated on Lag B'omer. Well, his life in that cave was a man-like existence, and that he was being sustained by the man that fell down from the heavens.
Was it the carob tree?
Yes, it was a carob tree in a stream of water. But I'm
Right.
saying, but that sprouted in this cave and sustained him.
Okay, I got
Right,
it.
so it was man-like, is what I'm saying.
How much they got when they went out to get them on? B'omer.
Oh, that was the amount. That's true.
So
Right, that's true.
There's another connection.
Yeah. Okay, so the different customs that we have on Lag B'omer. So let's see source number. What's it, 6?
6.
Or did we do 6 already?
No.
No, 6. Rechaim Vital wrote, Hatam sha'simcha hi al otam tamidam shehosid achakach rekiyu shalom metu ke'elu. The reason why the rejoicing is for those students, the later students, that he added on, who did not die like the earlier ones. The katav tikozel orod ki yesh shoresh minhag hazeh hanizkar ubeprat ki shema yochai alav shalom hu mehei tamidav. Right? This is the custom that we go to Meiron and celebrate on Lag B'omer. Shema Yochai was one of those 5 great students. Lachein zman simchato biyom Lag L'omer. Right? So the time to celebrate is on Lag B'omer. How do we celebrate? So from the Toldot Arizal, B'mei Maranu Yisakaru Hiskimu Shlo Yasu Yisroel Harviyim Mechol B'Lag B'omer Al Tziyun Roshimin Ben Yochai. Right? They agree the Jews would not make a big celebration at the grave site of Shemei Yochai. The Nira L'Maran Ubeidino Shehu Zilzul She'ochlim Umarachtim. Right? It seemed to Maran, our master, Rabbi Yosef Karo, the author of Shulchan Aruch, and his Beit Din, that it was disrespectful. That people are going there, they're eating, they're drinking, they're singing, music, barbecues. It seemed a little bit. V'nichtava, and they wrote to abolish this custom. V'lo nechtama, but it was never signed, it was never sealed. Balayla, that night, Chalam Maran, Rabbi Yisroel had a dream. In Shemei Yochai, and he saw Shemei Yochai. And he said a great misfortune would befall if that decision were to be implemented. He did not see it as a sign of disrespect. His wish, his want was that they should celebrate on that hilula, on that yard site. Ulamachar, and the next day, kara et haskama, that agreement that they had come to was torn up and it was never implemented.
Wouldn't you think that we would study Pirkei Avot on Lag B'omer? Since all of these rabbis are
Good
quoted
point, I know.
throughout? Wouldn't that
Yeah.
be a
Yeah.
natural?
Or we learn we learn the story of Lag B'omer, or some people learn Zohar. Yeah, all of that would be very, 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 very proper. Yeah.
Rabbi, just in source 6, the very last line in the Hebrew. Look what it says, Lag B'omer.
Okay, and lastly, a letter of Bar Tanura. Let's see, B'yom Yirchet B'Iyar, Yom Mitato Shemay Yochai, on the 18th day of Iyar, which is the Hilula, the anniversary of the death of Yortzei Shemay Yochai, Boim Mikol HaSvivot. They come from all around, right? And it's true. All of Israel converges at this mountaintop. U'madlikin aleh avukot gedolot, and they light large bonfires. Milvad mashmalikin aleh ner tamid. Right? Besides the many candles that are lit. Shahar be'akarot nifkedu. Many women who were unable to have children were able to have children. V'nifkedu, v'cholim nitrapu. Right? And other people who were sick, they were cured, they were healed. B'neder u'b'nedava, through different pledges that were made, l'makomahu, at that place, to the place, to tzedakah on that night. It is a very, very holy and opportune time. Lastly, Rav Aaron Kotler takes an important lesson, a general lesson, from this whole story that we've gone through. Kedai gam leitbonein me'idach gisa. We also have to understand, to view begodel hazichut, the incredible merit, sharabateinu shebedarom, of the rabbis in the south. Da Torah shaita reuya li maser idei chaftal elef tamidei Rekiva nimso idei chamishin tamidim elu. The Torah that was meant to go travel through via 24,000 students, instead went through 5. Each of them was in the place of 4,000, if my math's correct, 4,800 students.
Because
Each one of them took the place,
right. They had to get
fulfilled the role of that which 4,800 students would have passed on. Each of them passed on that, the equivalent. V'chein hu, v'fi erech godel zechutam shalameli haTorah b'doreinu. So too, he says, the incredible merit of those who toil in Torah in our generation. Again, right? Rav Aaron Kotler, the founder of the Lakewood Yeshiva of Beis Medrash Gavoh in Lakewood, New Jersey, came from Europe after the Holocaust. Shehu b'chinat v'ayah olam shamein, because they too, right? We are in a state where the world was desolate, as we said there. V'ayidei yichidim, and it's through individuals, hasuridim, these remnants of the Holocaust, Asher Hashem korei, to whom God calls, ha'oskim b'Torah, that they are dedicating themselves to Torah. Ein ha'Torah mishtakachat mi Yisroel. Torah will not be forgotten from Yisrael. So whenever any person steps up, right, when there is a void, when there is something to be filled, to understand the incredible merit. I once heard from Rav Yaakov Galinsky, Zatzal, of blessed memory. He related a beautiful teaching. He said that he once said to the Panavish Rav that our generation is greater than the generation of Chazal, of the Talmudic sages. And he said, I'll prove it to you. The Gemara says 1,000 students start to learn Chumash, Torah, Bible. Of those 1,000, 100 make it to Mishnah. Of the 100 who start Mishnah, 10 make it to Gemara. Of the 10 who learn Gemara, 1 makes it to Hora'ah, to Paskening Halachot. Our generations, of the 1,000 who start to learn Chumash, a lot more than 100 make it to Mishnah. Of the 100 who start Mishnah, a lot more than 10 make it to Gemara. So our generation is greater than that of the sages of the Talmud. He explained, and he said as follows. He gave a mashal, a parable. A wedding is planned, and they're expecting 700 guests. It's an East Coast wedding. 700 guests, and what's about to happen? Suddenly there's this flash snowstorm. And of the 700 guests, 50, 60 show up, 70 show up. The food's already all prepared. Can't send it back. The waiters come out with trays filled with steaming food, and they say, eat, eat, eat.
Yes, stop.
All right? This, right? Can't go back to the kitchen. It's here. Eat, eat, eat. So he explained that in the time of the sages, all 1,000 Jews came to learn. So you divide up the siyata d'shmaya, the heavenly assistance, the divine help, and what do you have? 100 make it to Mishnah, 10 to Gemara, 1 to Horah. But he said in our generation, how many of the 1,000 show up? 100 show up. So they have all of that siyata d'shmaya, all of that heavenly burst and energy and help. So therefore, of the 100 who go to start Chumash, 90 start to do Mishnah. And of the 90 do Mishnah, 75 get to Gemara. And for those, etc., etc. And he said that in our generation we have to realize that when we come, we are amongst the few of this large nation of Israel who understand, who know, who have the privilege of learning Torah, and the ability to really develop in Torah learning is incredible. Okay, we'll call it over here, then I'll take other questions.
Doesn't that kind of beg the question, if everyone was knowing and valuing Torah so much during the generation of the sages that all 1,000 showed up, and here not even anybody knows to show up, well, if you don't